Good morning, Tribe.
We are coming to you live from the new Investor Tribe studio. Today's episode is brought to you by Kentucky Private Lending. Go to their website, kentuckypl.com, to start your investing journey today. Now, we keep hearing investing can be intimidating.
That's so true, but we're here to help you skip the guesswork.
I'm Hampton Skurlock.
I'm Milton Ali, and you're watching the Investor Tribe podcast. Man, so when I first started in the business, I wasn't making any money. I wasn't making any money. I don't think we've met yet. I literally was just out here in the streets as a real estate agent, new, and my mentor, shout out to CQ Sims, who's in Mesa, Arizona. He's my, for the first few years was a strong mentor in my life. He basically was like, I don't care what you do, you better find something and it needs to be $100,000 or more. I don't care what you do, as long as it's $100,000, go after the deal. So I went after the deal. And in the neighborhood I lived in at the time, that was near the South End, there was a lot of $140,000 houses, $100,000 houses, and there was some $78,000 houses, right?
That's a very specific number there. So
yes, so he gave me that number. So basically what he did was he was like, this is what my focus needed to be. So he just was like, look, and I don't care what you do, you just need to focus and do that and do that and do that. And you keep on doing it and you'll be okay. And I was like, okay. So I would knock on doors. I knocked on at least 2,000 doors that first 9 months of being in real estate. I did 42 open houses, and I literally would work with somebody. So they would say, hey, Milton, we want you to sell our house. And I say, okay, great. I'll sell your house. No problem. They're like, well, you need some things done to get the house ready. So they would say, Milton, can you take care of that? And I would say, well, I guess. Yes, I'll go ahead and do it. Okay. So
Milton Handyman Services.
Right. So then they would say, hey, Milton, we can't be at the house. Can you be at the house and meet the contractor? And then make sure they did the right work. And I said, okay. I didn't have nothing. I didn't know any better. Then they were like, well, Milton, can you make sure that they pay? And can you make sure that they do all the work? And as a matter of fact, can you find us a new electrician? Our other electrician bailed on us, so can you find us another electrician? I did that. I was doing that for about 6, 7, 8 houses for people.
You're going above and beyond. You're wearing a contractor hard hat on top of your realtor hat.
I didn't know that.
Gotcha.
I thought that's what realtors were supposed to do. I just thought that, I literally thought that's what you were supposed to do as a real estate agent. I didn't know any better. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I've been flipping these people's houses. And that's just literally how I got into the business.
You were tricked into flipping other people's houses. I had 6 or 7 flips under my belt before I realized I was actually working.
I was actually working. Right. I was tricked into this business. So
they gave me business cards, sent them a general contractor, and I just started going into their houses and fixing them up. And
that's exactly what happened.
That's an interesting story. That's a very unique way to get started with investment properties.
Yeah.
A lot of realtors, shout out to all the realtors out there. There's a lot of good ones, and a lot of them do bend over backwards. They're fixing things. They're mowing grass.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting a bag of mulch in the back of their Audi and putting it on a property that needs it. Or they're doing these final repairs that are getting through the punch list. They're helping push these deals to get to the finish line, because
that's right.
Nobody they're not getting paid, and the deal doesn't get done unless the deal gets done and closed.
That's facts, because it's so important that you set yourself up for victory when you know what you're doing. However, I was glad to have done those deals because I wasn't using my money.
Yeah, it's nice when you get to learn from other people's.
When you get to learn from other people
on their
dime, right? On their dime. So by the time me and you started connecting, I already had that experience under my belt. I still didn't know what it meant to use my own money yet, though. So that was the thing. I was just like, well, I have all this experience, but it didn't get real until I started using my own money. Now, you're like, oh, I need to really save,
And that's the question of the day is, what's holding you back? Dang it, what is stopping you?
What is stopping you? What is stopping you from learning? From at least partnering with somebody and sitting at their feet and learning. And look, don't be ashamed to say, okay, well, I'm not making any money.
Or I don't know what I'm doing. Or I don't have any money.
Or I don't have any. Right. Just get started. Just literally go ahead and get started. But now, you know what we're going to get started doing?
What's that?
Spin the wheel.
So let's go ahead and spin the wheel. No whammies. No whammies. Is that show?
Yeah.
No whammies.
No whammies.
No whammies. Big money.
Just winging it.
Just winging it. Hey, so that means we're going to put some extra, hot sauce on the wing for hot takes. All right. All right. So, all right. Well, thank you. So it is, and so while we get our hot wings together, so it's a new season and new showtime. Notice we're on at 9 a.m. Mondays and Thursdays. And so this is the question of the day. What's holding you back from starting? And let's just be real. Just leave it in the comments. Just what's holding you back. We will be responding throughout the show. And look, we're here to help. I mean, from the standpoint of if it's money, then really that's not really an issue. There is so much access to money these days.
Private money,
partners. Money. I mean, we sit down with people that have money, and that's not the problem. Tend to be the money does like to find the best deal. And so if you can find the deal, then the money tends to look for you.
Yep. And you don't have to know everything about construction and building a home from the ground up, to get into real estate investing. I wasn't that handy. Bought two properties. I'm still not that handy now. I'm not that tall. I'm not that good looking. I got a lot. Strikes. A lot of things going against me. Yeah,
just facts.
You're still able to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
But when I started, I wasn't fully. Didn't have a bunch of set goals. I didn't have a lot of experience with real estate when you're getting into it when you first start. Didn't have a mentor. Wasn't part of a association or group. Just realized I had a lot of clients and friends that had done well or that made money as a financial planner. All the ones that were millionaires or doing well, they all had real estate, and I figured I just need to do what they're doing. So I started buying up two small, very cheap properties, side by side, and they cash flowed, and then it was a stepping stone to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. But taking action is probably more important than evaluating and knowing every single detail and being overeducated and knowing all of your numbers to perfection before you take action. So I'd say make progress, not perfection.
Yeah, I agree.
And don't get analysis paralysis. We've known people that have been searching for their first property for 8 years. And they'll occasionally come to a meetup.
Didn't you tell me a story about how somebody that you were close to, I forgot the details, but they spent like $50,000 and didn't even buy a property?
I had a family member, before we did the podcast. Member? Yes, family member that.
She don't listen to the Investor Tribe podcast?
This is before Investors. This is pre-Investor Tribe podcast.
Pre-ITP. Pre-meeting? Pre-meetups?
Well, she was in another city. But yes,
got you. So it wasn't in your orbit,
right? But still, it's family. They knew we were doing investing stuff and had properties. And she called me one day, and she's not from California, but she was out in California at a guru's event.
Okay.
And she had spent $30,000 on this training course.
Right.
She hadn't brought a house.
How long was this training course?
A couple months.
It was a couple month training course.
Then she spent all the money to go out there, and she was calling me because she was asking me what I thought about buying 1/10 of a property in California with 9 other investors, strangers. And I was like, none of that sounds like a good idea. It's horrible. Just run. You could buy a whole house in other parts of the world, other parts of the country for $100,000 or less. Not just 10% of a house with 9 strangers. That's just a lot of bad things can happen when you involve that many people in a property that's far away.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. 50, so 30 grand or 50 grand?
It was
30
it was
grand or something?
30-some thousand for the education, plus she had spent some money on travel and probably spent some money on a boot camp thing before the big 30,000.
I'm gonna say this, and look, this may not go off as well, but people have a hard time spending $4.99 on Flip Savvy. We sell the course now. It's online. You can go to imvtribe.com and you can take the course now online. It's that literally we're talking people have a hard time paying $4.99 for a Flip Savvy course.
And this is several years ago. A lot of people weren't making that much money per year, and she's spending it
spending it on a whole course. That's crazy, bro. That's wild. And we are in the wrong business. We should go into doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because I guarantee you those guys that teach those courses like that don't even have to sell real estate.
I don't know if they were actually doing or if they were just teaching. It's several years ago. We did. I did tell her I would not encourage her to buy a property with a bunch of strangers or spend that much money.
Right.
And it didn't even really cash flow because the rents weren't that high and the property was so expensive. I was like, just none of this makes sense. I said, who would tell you to do this? She's like, oh, my guru. I was like, are you paying him? She's like, yeah, I already paid him. I was like, oh, goodness. So she ended up buying a couple properties closer to Louisville and surrounding. She's up from Ohio, so it worked out. She got a couple properties. They cash flowed. She owned them all. Didn't have to get mortgages on them. It did very well, owning them, having them, and then she eventually sold them and did pretty well.
Right.
She bought them right, and she's like, "What? I just didn't want. I didn't know what I didn't know, or I thought I need to get, overeducated, super educated. I think was the word. I don't want to get super educated before I actually go and buy a property. And sometimes just buying a property can be your education. Yes,
this is wild. And so even with today, I mean." We talk about how, and this is going to take us down a different road. Like so many times, I think when me and you have conversations about like hitting goals and growing your business and doing things and all this kind of stuff and ideas, like we're kicking ideas together. And we talk about how the stories we tell ourselves tends to frame our realities, right? Like if you say to yourself that, investing is too difficult, or if you say to yourself that I can't do it, or investing in real estate is for those other people, but I can't do it myself, then I think it becomes ultimately your reality. And it's so important to be able to tell yourself the right stories. Like one of the cool things that I've learned over the years has been you don't really lose, you learn. Right? So when a deal doesn't go the way you want it to go, I don't say, man, I lost, man. I'm down the creek, I'm really bad. Well, that might be true, but I lost, but yes, I didn't really lose. I learned something. I learned something early on. Me and you bought a house together and it was in horrific shape, right? Didn't get an inspection.
Big ugly one.
Ugly one. Smelled like dog poop. It was bad. And the guy was actually living there, which is just wild to me, right? But here's the thing. Like, I don't think we lost. We learned a lot. And I bought a house from you that I had one of my inspectors. I said, hey, man, look over this house. He inspected it, but he was like, look, I'm not doing a full thing. If you really want me to do the full thing, you got to pay me a little bit more money. I said, hey, man, no, I'm not paying you a little bit more money. Just give me make sure it's not a complete death trap. So it wasn't a complete death trap. And he answered that question and everything went okay. But what ended up happening is while we were on sale, there was an issue with the plumbing. They snaked the plumbing. End up busting. The snake went through the pipe, the iron, the rusted pipe, and it was just bad. We end up cutting open a wall, cutting open a wall and repairing the entire plumbing line. So $1,100 later, because I went through the people that are on the trucks.
Oh yeah,
I
the
didn't
big
call.
fancy
I
advertising
didn't call
one, yes.
the. I didn't call. Well, first, I didn't have that many plumbers in my life, right? I was arguing with every plumber because they wanted to charge me more money, and I ended up going. It's a whole other thing I had to learn myself too. So I'm arguing with the plumber. Okay, I'm arguing on the phone with the plumber, and the plumber actually had the presence of mind to just argue with me, and he was like, "You know what? I got time today." So he's like,
"We're gonna do this.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, right?"
He put down his pipe wrench and he told you,
right? Told
listen.
me what. So basically, he was like, "I'm here for you. I'm here for this today." He white, so he didn't say that. So basically, he was like, "Yo," he was like, "Hey, man, this is what this costs. This is what," and something I had the presence of mind to ask, "Why are you charging?" I said, "Hey, man, I'm just starting out. I don't quite understand what you're saying. Sounds too expensive, but help me understand." So once he said that, he calmed down. I was able to calm down. And he was like, "Look, man, this is what has to happen. Now I have to go through here. I have to cut open the wall. I have to go through and I have to I have to replace the piping with corrugated piping because you got iron piping. It's all the way through the ceiling. I mean, all the way through almost to your roof. So I got to cut open the wall in the basement and on the main floor and go up in the attic and replace all of your piping. Then I have to, then he basically explains a scope of work to me.
And then you have to go and pay somebody to fix the drywall behind.
Yeah, all that. And I got to do all this, that, and that. And so basically I was like, oh, snap, this dude is giving me a discount. He's actually giving me a discount. Like, this is actually kind of dope. You know what I mean? So basically I thought to myself, like, man, here I am arguing with this guy. You know what I'm saying? And so there's another lesson that I like to, there's another lesson, take it back, Drew, that other saying that's there. And yes, the first lie you ever tell is to yourself. That's the first lie you ever tell is to yourself.
And sometimes trying to find the cheapest, plumber, contractor, whatever, can come back and bite you because they may be the cheapest, but they may take the longest, or they may do such cheap or shoddy work that you got to pay somebody to do their work again, and you're paying your holding costs. Because when you got these flip houses, think of back in the day when there was a taxi, the meter was running. As long as you're holding that property, the meter's running. You've got a utility bill. You've got insurance. You've got taxes.
So here's another one.
As much as you pay for quality.
See, this is the confessional booth. Okay, so check this out. So my microwave got broken, back in December. So my microwave was broken. It's December, and I go out and I buy another microwave. It's over the range microwave. So I go out and I buy that microwave. Right now, it's simple because the brackets were there, and so all I did was I put it in, and the holes that are in the cabinet were misaligned with the holes in the microwave. And so what I did is I took the drill and I took one of them and it's kitty cornered into the hole, so it's off centered a little bit. But the more you screw it in, the more it goes off to the side. So now it's off to the side, and then I drilled a hole through the wood piece on the other side of it, and it was so mismatched that I end up having a piece of wood from
the kids' play set. You can take a piece of the kids' play set.
Yo, I had a piece of wood from the like our fireplace. So we got a fireplace, we got like wood that we cut, whatever. And so I got a piece of wood that was on the stove holding up the microwave. My wife was like, "You're calling somebody to fix
wing
this."
and a prayer.
You're calling somebody to help you out with that. You know what I mean? And so look, I know I'm not handy. I know I'm clearly not handy. And because my wife has banned me from fixing stuff. And every time I try, I'm like, yes, I can do it. I can do it. She's like, you're going to pay twice. Like, what? What are you talking about? Where you're going to pay first to think you can do it yourself, and then you're going to pay someone to correct. So why don't you just go ahead and skip the first one and just pay once?
And if it was my wife, I probably would end up paying 3 times, or she'd say 3 times. You're going to pay for me. You're going to hear all about it. You're going to pay for me in my words. So she would tell me all about it.
Oh,
if she didn't think I could do it. So my secret is just to do it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then call somebody. And hopefully she doesn't get on me too much about it. But sometimes you just have to call somebody. You got to bite the bullet.
Yeah, you got to bite the bullet. And you know what? We're going to stay on this for the next 30 minutes, Drew, because this is that important. But yeah, so what are some of your favorite sayings?
That kind of goes along with it. Don't be penny wise
and pound foolish. I can dig it. I can dig it. And you know what? It's so cool to be able to kind of talk about like being as far as having that plan as we talk about mindset and going for it and getting involved. And it's so important to be able to follow a plan before you get creative, right? It's follow the plan, and there's room for your creativity later.
Along your journey, you can get creative. You may take
you can get creative. You can do all these other things, but right. But success leaves clues, and there's times for you to be creative later. And it's so important in my work and what I do every day, helping people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. It's about being able to make sure that you find a really great deal, and to not get emotionally attached to that deal.
Yeah, definitely don't get emotionally attached. So,
my gosh, yeah, please don't get emotionally attached to these deals.
To an investment property.
Right, to a particular deal. And sometimes there is this bias that we have that once you spent so much time on it, you're like, well, I might as well go through with it. But you have to learn how to walk away, even if you learn that the math isn't mathin', as the kids say, the math ain't mathin' or whatever, that you just need to get away and you just need to keep it moving.
As one of my mentors and friends says, buy a different one down the street. Buy another one that's on sale.
That's deal. It. There's always another deal on sale. You know what I mean? And so let's go ahead and take a quick break. You know what's really interesting about getting started and being focused and keeping your head about yourself? I think that's super important, is that you need a team and you need a tribe. And I can't stress enough about the importance of having a tribe, the importance of having a team and working with different people. And they say, who says the saying, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, gotta work with other people.
Yep.
Like, it's so important to do things together and to build a tribe together. Like if you watch our podcast, you listen to our podcast, you watch our podcast, you're going to hear and you're going to see a whole bunch of people that have been on this podcast. Like, we've had, who did we have on? Like last week, the week before, we had
lenders, title company,
$1 million panel, all the people that are there.
Property managers. And some of these people may end up being on your team. So you could reach out to them, and we believe enough in them, and they're part of our team or part of our people, our group's team.
Yeah, of course. Even if it's the mayor, we have people that are super smart on this program, and you can just kind of glean the wisdom from them, and we can be your team. We can be your team,
and you can be building your team, and you also need to plan for growth and the what if. You'll hear some investors talk about, I've got my main crew or main guys that do this, and I've got my B team or my farm team that I can maybe call up to the majors if they prove themselves. So they're trying out, or they're giving them small jobs, giving them maybe properties that aren't as high dollar, or the finishes aren't as important, to see how they do, how they respond, what responsibilities they have, what level of communication they have, and if they prove themselves to do a good job, maybe they're moved up to more work, and they move up to the A team, and you're always looking for additional good contractors, additional good people to join your team, because it's even once you get a great team in place, there may be somebody that retires, somebody that has a health issue, somebody that decides, hey, I don't want to be a stonemason anymore because my new girlfriend doesn't like I have calloused fingers. So you need to find another stonemason. And that happened to me at one time. I was like, are you kidding me? I heard a lot of different reasons for
I knew. I was like, that was oddly specific.
I remember it. It stuck with me. I'm thinking, well, I thought he loved being a stonemason, and he's out. Wife doesn't like the calloused hands, and he loves her more than his job, and he's done.
Hey, I'm not mad. That totally makes sense. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I do think it's definitely like, crazy. And so we've had really good people work with us, and we were able to build a phenomenal team. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
We're back, and we've got meetups every month.
We got meetups now this is so we have a main meetup that is once a month, and we have another meetup that is a networking. That is the Investor Tribe Networking. And so Investor Tribe Networking, we meet at 7507 River Road. That is Diorio's Pizza and Pub. And that's for lunch. That is on the first and third Wednesday of every month at 12 noon. Join us if you want to build your networking, you want to build your business. Contractors, people that have money, people that are looking, investors, plumbers, electricians. A lot of people pull up to this meeting.
And then we've got another meeting that meets on the second Tuesday of each month at Roosters in the Middletown area of Louisville. And it's 10430 Shelbyville Road. And you're right at, starts about 6 o'clock till 7:30.
It's our happy hour.
It's the happy hour. It's the
happiest hour you're going to have that month.
And we're back in the private room. It's a good time. Come on out. Tell your friends. And we're there every second Tuesday. You can join the Facebook group. You can find us online, all the socials. You can enjoy the podcast at all the platforms at invtribe.com at invtribe. The website's invtribe.com. And then we've also got Spotify, where people can listen to us on the road.
You can listen to us on Spotify now. So in the morning, as you are driving your kids to school, or you're waking up, you're doing your thing, and you're on the road, or you know what I did before I was in real estate. I was working in the food business, and I used to drive a box truck, and I would listen to podcasts, and that's how it just kind of, I was becoming a better person by listening to podcasts. So if you are driving a food truck, you can listen to the Investor Tribe podcast and become an investor. So,
and if you're not a patient driver, you got a bunch of idiots driving in front of you, behind you, around you, you can just yell with us, yell at us. It'll help with your road rage. You'll take out that stress, but just be careful out there.
That's right.
Don't run into anybody. Don't pull weapons. Don't approach people. There's some crazies out there.
Yeah, it does get crazy.
And we don't want you to get in a little trouble. And speaking of trouble, it's time now for our hot takes, which sometimes we get ourselves in.
It is time for hot takes. Let's go. So I threw some hot sauce from L&N on here, and I got some more hot sauce. So next hot takes, bro, is gonna be fire. I got some burn your face off stuff. You know what I mean? So today's hot take is
50-year mortgages.
Yeah, that's
a
wild.
Life sentence or a godsend.
Right. So last year, President Trump got on social media and was like, yo, I'm thinking he didn't say yo, but he was like, let's do a 50-year mortgage. Like I just think that's my best impression. But he said, let's do a 50-year mortgage. So I got some thoughts, but what do you think?
Not a great impersonation, but we'll give you an F for effort. And but 30-year mortgage has been around a while. They used to do some 40-year mortgages. So to some people, 50 years isn't that much of a stretch. And there is a lot of people now that are priced out of home ownership. They can't afford the payments, or the job's just not enough to make ends meet. So if they can lower their housing expenses through a longer term mortgage, it may be I hate to say the only solution, but maybe a an ideal solution for somebody that's right on the edge of just being able to afford a home, and they can't quite make the numbers work on a 30-year mortgage. But if they're able to stretch that out to a 40 or 50-year mortgage, now all of a sudden they're a homeowner, and they're building wealth, and they're getting, depreciate, they're getting tax write-offs or some breaks, and they're building intergenerational wealth for families. So while I wouldn't necessarily encourage a 50-year mortgage for most people if you pay it off early or save an interest, but if people that they need those numbers, that lower payment to get into a home, I say go for it.
You know how much money and interest you're going to be paying?
A lot. But people pay a lot on 5, 10, 20, 30, 40-year mortgage. Yes, you'll be paying a lot more on a 50. But
you're going to be paying a ridiculous amount of interest to this bank. I mean, you're talking about almost doubling your interest, and the savings are only about a couple $100 a month.
And so those people,
$500,000 house, you put 20% down, you're literally looking at around $3,500 a month, if on a 30-year.
What's that look on a 50-year mortgage?
50-year, you're looking at around maybe 32.
32. I was going to guess closer to
200, maybe 32,
3,000.
34, maybe 31.
Okay.
I mean, the numbers are off. Depends on the interest rates. You need to talk to somebody that is a loan officer, but still, bruh, that don't sound like amazing.
Look at the amortization schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you do.
You
gotta, you do got to run your own numbers, and look, if it makes sense for you, then it needs to make sense. And I mean, look, I'm not on the front. You give me a 50-year mortgage on a rental.
If the terms are good and cash flows,
great. I don't care. Let's go.
We're talking more about for homeowners at this point. I guess that's the hot take. Because I don't know if they were going to do the 50-year mortgages on investment properties. They tend to be a little more higher interest and shorter term,
right?
Just given their nature. But if there's no prepayment penalties, again,
but what I'm saying is, I take a 50-year mortgage on a multifamily.
But
live in one unit and rent out the other 3.
House hack with additional cash flow.
Man, you know how cool that would be. I mean, that's real money.
The drawback is, you're paying more interest, you're paying it for a longer period of time. But the family they can't qualify for that $3,500 mortgage, but they qualify for a $3,200 or $3,100 mortgage. Maybe it's their keys to get in the door. It's their keys to homeownership, the path to homeownership. They get in, they get that mortgage, and then maybe they get a side hustle, or they start making a little more money in the second year, and they can bump their payments up to what they would have been on a 30-year, and they still end up paying off at the 30 years, not the 50, but it allowed them to qualify.
No, I'm totally with you there. And so what you'll be really able to do with that is you can take that and it does help. It brings more buyers into the market, to your point. It brings more buyers into the market. It brings more people into, it brings buyers in the market. We already have an inventory problem. So prices can potentially go up because it brings more buyers into the office and more demand, with more demand, prices go up. So I think there's some positives. I think there's some challenges with it. And and one of the main reasons why I think Trump brought this into the conversation late last year was they want to solve the housing crisis. They want to make housing a lot more affordable for younger people. Right now, what we're looking at is the average first-time home buyer is now 40. The average buyer in America right now, 2026, is around in their mid-50s. That's the average buyer. So the average first-time home buyer is 40, bruh.
So that movie 40-Year-Old Virgin, it could be like 40-year-old house buying virgin, 40-year home. It's wow. That's the average age of a first-time buyer now.
Wow, yeah.
That used to be quite a bit lower. And how long has it been going up?
So it's been going up for a while. So back in the 80s, it was around like in your early 20s would be the first time you buy a house. That's when you can buy a house for like, $20 and 7 raspberries. And so, but now you can, but then in the 90s, you started seeing it creeping towards like the early 30s when you can buy a home, right? And so now it's about 40 years old. And there are several places in America right now that if interest rates were 0, it still wouldn't be affordable.
On the coast, a lot of the higher price
markets. Some of the higher price markets in the coast and different things like that. And so it's so important that, so he's trying to just say, you know what, let's go ahead and solve this by let's solve this by at least addressing something.
And it will solve. It'll solve for a few people. It may help. Help them get into the homeownership. Like I said, it may affect demand or prices. But it's. I've heard some people say, "Oh, it's a horrible idea. It's a life sentence. There's people in jail or in jail less than 50 years. It's horrible." And they're like, "Well, it's voluntary.
It's longer than a life sentence.
They're choosing to get a 50-year mortgage because maybe they can't get the property they want, or they don't feel safe living in the house they can afford with a 30-year mortgage.
And the average tenure for someone living in a house is 8 to 12 years anyway. So you're not going to be in this house for 50 years. I mean, I know very few people that's been in their house for a very, 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 very long time. I don't think I have the longest. My mom just sold her place last year in Texas, and they were in that house for like 30 years. They're in that house in 30 years. So people do stay in houses for 30 years, but I don't hear, and there's obviously people longer.
My parents worked about 40 years.
Okay.
But that was for different times. A lot of people went to work for one company and they had a pension or retirement plan.
And that's it.
And they stayed.
They worked for one company for 30 years and then they retired.
Yeah, not everybody did, but now we're more of a gig economy, and people are moving and they'll change jobs for $1,000 raise or some benefits, and not that there's lack of loyalty on the employee or the employer side. I'm not going to argue that, but people are moving and jumping and changing more often and moving amongst states, countries sometimes.
Oh yeah, of course. People are doing people are moving all over the place, and so sweet. So shout out to the hot takes, man. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to hot takes.
The Investor Tribe podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, financial advisors, or licensed tax professionals. The opinions expressed by our hosts and guests are their own and should not be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. All investments carry risk, including loss of principal. Always do your own due diligence, consult qualified professionals, and make informed decisions based on your unique situation. The Investor Tribe podcast is brought to you by The Investor Tribe, all rights reserved, featuring Hampton and Milton Aldi, executive producer Drew Cookenmaster, produced and distributed by Bespoke Marketing.